This is video number 2 out of 4 for the PPR orientation for academic programs. This video is going to cover the outline of the self-study sections for PPR, sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the programs that should be most focused on coming from the academic program rather than from necessarily other organizations or parts of the college. To get started with the sections of the self-study, I'll refer you back to the My Cedar Crest assessment page and the outline and PPR templates that are found there. To access those PPR documents, get yourself logged into My Cedar Crest. On the red horizontal list of links, find the assessment page, and from there you'll find all of the PPR documents that you'll need gathered under assessment forms for academic programs and PPR. Here's the outline and here's the template. This first document is the outline for PPRs from academic programs. You'll see there are the 9 sections and there are subsections, so 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 for academic programs. What you'll see in the outline is a quick description of the section, and then just a brief statement as to what you should include there. If there are page length recommendations, that's the suggested length for the kind of written analysis that you would need to write. Some of this will not require any additional analysis. It's just pulling together documents that you should already have in the program, such as syllabi or previous annual assessment reports. So this is the one sheet front and back that allows you to make sense of the PPR self-study document, I think, fastest. The second document that you'll want to be referring to throughout building the self-study is the PPR template. So this is a Word file that will just give you sort of a quick way to organize and include everything. You'll see the cover page, table of contents, followed by the outline. And then each section has the description of what the PPR section is looking for, as well as the standard that the section is attempting to address. So you'll see broadly then that the assessment committee, as it's reviewing these documents, is comparing the contents of each section against an evaluated standard that appears for them. So let's walk through detailing these first 4 sections of academic PPR. The executive summary, key findings and recommendations, the mission, student learning outcomes or SLOs, curriculum map, and alignment of each of those, particularly with how they align to the college, the assessment of student learning and student achievement, and then a description of academic programs, syllabi, and the program's capstone experience. So section 1 is really the most important section of PPR, and what I recommend is that you spend most of your time in the program thinking about what the strategic vision is of the program, communicating that and building that from within the program for all your faculty, including full-time or part-time faculty, as well as adjuncts who are regularly teaching in the program, and then making a number of recommendations. So whether that's changes to assignments or changes to the curriculum within the program or resource recommendations. Resource includes things such as time spent on particular assignments or tasks, or the number of credit hours that are structured. It also includes things like capital expenses, lab equipment, technology resources, and other academic components that go into the program. So this first section is meant to provide a strategic view of what the self-study found and what you hope to accomplish over the next 5 years moving on from periodic program review. So think about this as really, if you just wanted to read one section to encapsulate everything that's going on in the program, this should speak to your stakeholders and your various audiences in a very direct, concise way. So within this section, what I would suggest is that you summarize the most important observations that are found throughout other analysis that you've done in the self-study. You should be developing this from a collaboration in terms of how the other students and faculty in the program see the value of the program and want to make improvements to that. And you should be making important recommendations as to the assessment results that you've seen. So what we need to be careful of in conducting assessment is just concluding, well, everything's fine, everything's okay, right? So it seems like students are learning fine. We need to be using assessment results from an accreditation standpoint to improve the curriculum and the student learning experience. So that should accompany recommendations for resources and the goals that you would set from the program. So finally, as you're writing recommendations here in section 1, I would suggest that you think about the acronym SMART. That is to say that over a course of 4 to 5 years, goals that you set for the program, what you want to achieve in the program, should be SMART. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely goals. So specific in that you say we want to create improvements of the program. Well, what are those exact improvements? Measurable, how will you know if those improvements happened? They should be attainable, so we shouldn't be having goals that aren't necessarily attainable, so we can say that we're going to be the best program in all of the country, but is that realistic, right? So what does being the best program mean, for instance, right? So does it mean serving a particular mission? Does that mean a particular region? Does that stack up against other programs within a discipline? It should be relevant, which is to say that the suggestions that we're making should have value to the students, right? So it should be important. It should be something that we want to commit ourselves to. And timely. Timely is finally, we're not going to get to it somewhere out there in the long distance, but within a given set of years, when is it realistic that we can achieve those goals? And that's section 1, so that overall summary. Section 2 should largely come from the annual assessment reports that you've had for the program. Now, you can always make changes as you're pulling PPR together. This is exactly the time to make changes to, say, a mission statement or learning outcomes. But these should not dramatically change over time unless you're considering a significant program revision. You can be pulling in the mission, student learning outcomes, and curriculum map from your annual assessment reports. So include the mission statement. That should be concise and clear, just maybe 1 or 2 sentences at the most, so that if you had to describe what the value of the program is, not just what you're doing, but why we're doing it for students, the mission statement should convey that. You should state the student learning outcomes. Ideally, you should have 4 to 6 SLOs, unless you have more that are prescribed by a disciplinary body or another accreditor. Why 4 to 6? If you're operating in 4 to 6 student learning outcomes of a program, you can assess 1 or 2 of those each year and have a complete PPR cycle. Once you get into a laundry list of larger student learning outcomes, what's likely happening is that you're getting down to course level student learning outcomes. So there's a level of abstraction that you want that brings the program together. And if we're just detailing what every single course does, there's not exactly a sense of coherence for students and how we think about the relationship of courses to the program. And student learning outcomes should represent a mix of outcomes, knowledge, skills, and values that are appropriate to the degree level. So what students should know, what we want them to be able to do, and the habits of mind or behaviors and values that should come from them. So ethics, for instance, or professional behaviors would be certainly important student learning outcomes. A curriculum map should pull together each of your courses in terms of how they develop student learning from introduction to proficiency. So typically, programs map that out from a 3-course tier from introductory reinforcement to mastery. And then something that you'll want to include within this PPR that you may not have as a discrete element of your annual reports is some description of how this program aligns to the college's overall curriculums. That includes our liberal arts and general education curriculum and the Cedar Crest College mission as a whole. So that's section 2. Section 3 focuses on the evidence of student learning found in the assessment results over the previous PPR cycle. So this is where you should refer to all of the annual assessment documents and the changes that you have made to the program as a result of them. So if you decided to change an assignment, if you've decided to change your evaluation practices, added a rubric and so forth, this is the place to document those. An added section here are graduate outcomes, and this is what we mean by student achievement. What we look for in terms of assessing programs for their graduate outcomes is how well the program prepares students for successful careers, meaningful lives, and where appropriate, further education, such as graduate school. So that's language that comes straight from Middle States and our accreditors. What we want to know is how the program's pass rates, if you're using pre-professional qualifying exams, or employment or continuing education such as graduate school statistics, align to what you hope the program is accomplishing. So the question here is, how meaningful have your assessment results been for the program? What improvements have over the past 4 or 5 years you made to the program? Right, so there are some assessment fundamentals here since the last PPR over the last 4 to 5 years. So there should be benchmarks for student performance that should be defensible based on other experts in the field. You should be able to look at the result of student achievement in both direct and indirect measures. So direct measures are those that directly show what students are learning, and indirect measures are, say, surveys or how students perceive that they're learning. And that will include both formative and summative measures. So formative assessment measures are those that students conduct throughout the program. Summative measures are, for instance, found in a capstone portfolio project or a capstone signature project. So what you want to be careful to document here are the changes that you've made along with the data from your assessment results. And that's section 3. Also in section 3, you'll be wanting to address how the program prepares students for success after graduation. So this is what we know as student achievement after the degree. So it's important to take into consideration here data that comes from our college career surveys and any other post-graduation knowledge that the program has about what its students are doing. So that includes things such as pass rates. Our 4th section for PPR is a description of the academic program. And here what you want to do is to gather together what's effectively the catalog language for the program. So we often tweak catalog language year to year. We may be changing requirements, changing course descriptions. This is the moment to, again, land the plane and see how all of those changes impacted how students understand what's described in the catalog. So really look at the program through fresh eyes. So this is certainly what the assessment committee will be doing, is does the program make sense to someone who's just entering the program, and do we see a sense of coherence? So this is what section 4 pulls together, including any course descriptions and program admission requirements. Those should be documented in the catalog. In addition to what appears in the catalog should be the more kind of detailed documents that show student learning throughout the program. So that includes syllabi. So you should pull together syllabi that align to the curriculum map and be evaluating whether or not the learning outcomes that you include on the syllabus relate back to what you're saying the program should be doing. Your grading policy and trend are grades and how student work is evaluated across sections, evaluated consistently. The applied and collaborative learning, so things like internship, community, or field experiences. The summative course level assessment, so said another way, these are final exams or final projects at the course level, and how those will map up to a culminating experience of student learning in a program capstone. And that should pull together the components of section 4. So with section 4, again, you'll be pulling together the catalog description. And in terms of syllabus, you don't have to get a copy of the syllabus for each section of each class, but you should have a representative sample, including especially the capstone. So one syllabus from a course that's regularly offered in the program will suffice. and then address anything that's unique in the program, right? So if it's not clear how one course fits in with the curriculum map, what you'll want to do is use this section of the PPR to explain, well, here's how this course, say it's an elective, for instance, fits in with the overall learning outcomes of a program. You'll want to indicate any grading criteria. So if there's a program policy on grades, or if there's a syllabus statement or a uniform grading percentages, for instance, or grading rubrics, this is the place to address it. And then include here a representative list of the kind of student experiences that students are completing in an applied environment. So whether that's undergraduate research that they're conducting in the field, if they're doing student teaching or clinical experience, internships, that should be pulled in here. With the summative course level assignments, be thinking about the final exams or seminar papers that pull together student learning at the course level, and then a final capstone assignment or a sequence of linked capstone assignments that demonstrates here's what student learning meant for our major. So if you think about this as a signature assignment, if the student were only to have one assignment as a evidence of her learning in the major, that would be the capstone assignment, how we capture that in terms of her portfolio.